You have no idea what I went through.
Dr. Zimmer.
The awful choices I had to make.
You gotta always fight the good fight.
I didn't travel hundreds of miles to go shopping.
And he was instructed at Adams Air Force Base, just outside of
It's not only offensive, but horribly dangerous.
This video contains major spoilers for Fallout 3 and some spoilers for Fallout 4, so if you want to avoid spoilers, turn back now. The story of Fallout 3 ends with its final DLC, Mothership Zeta, but the story of the Capital Wasteland doesn't end there. After the events of 2277, many characters in the Capital Wasteland went on to live storied lives, while others were cut short. Not all of the choices the Lone Wanderer can make end up being canonical. The choices he or she does make have far-reaching consequences, affecting the lives of thousands of people. With the Lone Wanderer's help, the Brotherhood of Steel successfully took back Project Purity from the Enclave, and without the need for Sarah Lyons to sacrifice herself. But this success was bittersweet for Madison Lee. With the Lone Wanderer lying comatose in the bowels of the Pentagon, the events leading up to that moment began to weigh on her. She had abandoned 10 years of work at Rivet City after losing a man she admired, a man at one time she had feelings for.
You found him? I can't believe it! You have my thanks. We would be lost without James.
You seem very happy. Is there anything I should know?
No, of course not. I'm simply glad that our work can continue. James is essential to the project, that's all, really.
Feelings that were not reciprocated. Feelings she kept hidden for years. He arrived back in her life to reignite her passion for Project Purity, only to die shortly thereafter.
Lyons! I know you're in there! I know you can hear me! You open this goddamn door right now!
She helped the Brotherhood get Project Purity back from the Enclave, only to lose Project Purity to the Brotherhood, and to find the child of the man she cared for, the child she brought into this world, lying senseless on the floor of Project Purity. Everything she worked for, everything she loved, was taken from her. And so, as we learned from Scribe Bigsley and Alex Dargan, she left the Capital Wasteland for good.
After what happened to you when the purifiers started, I think she just kind of had enough. It was really hard on her, you know? First losing your dad, then the Enclave, and then the Brotherhood taking over here. It was really just too much for her. So I guess she packed up a few things and headed off north, towards the Commonwealth. Rumor has it there's a scientific community up there. I sure hope she finds what she's looking for.
She marched north, alone, over countless irradiated miles, through raider-inhabited wasteland, to arrive in the Commonwealth, where she did find a scientific community.
I made it from the Capital Wasteland to the Commonwealth on my own, you know. I was tired of being stepped on and used by the Brotherhood. First, there was the Water Purification Project, designed to freely benefit the entire Capital Wasteland. Even though the Brotherhood allowed it to be activated, they wanted to control it. Then there were other, more classified projects, always using my work as weapons of war. I simply had enough. The Brotherhood desired my creations in order to destroy, to take control. I came to the Institute to get away from the Brotherhood, from the whole world. I just wanted to do my research in peace. Even though Lyons let me go, there were a few others in the ranks that thought I knew too much. That's why I came to the Institute. It was the only place that I thought I'd be out of the Brotherhood's reach and still be able to do my research. I am surrounded by cutting-edge laboratory equipment and some of the greatest minds the world's ever known. It was 10 years ago. You were sleeping peacefully in your little tube while I went through a very special kind of hell. You have no idea what I went through. The awful choices I had to make. No idea. That was 10 years ago. One of many things that led me to abandon my old life and seek out the Institute.
She found the Institute. And there, at long last, she found personal fulfillment and satisfaction through her work, spending many years engaging with like-minded peers. Vault 101 eventually opened its doors to the Wasteland, at least if a Fallout 4 Creation Club creation can be believed as canonical. This means that either the Lone Wanderer destroyed the reactor in Vault 101, forcing all of its residents out into the wasteland, or the Lone Wanderer helped transfer power from its overseer to Amata, either by convincing the overseer to step down or by killing him. This means that Butch found his way to Rivet City, where he took up work as a barber. It's possible that he also reconnected with the Lone Wanderer and spent many years exploring the Capital Wasteland. Many years later, Wally Mack, one of the Tunnel Snakes, grew out of his little gang and decided to leave the Capital Wasteland. Along the way, he created his own gang, which he named the Tunnel Snakes. But sadly, Wally Mack was not a very wise leader. When he and his gang arrived in the Commonwealth, they decided to make a home inside the Fens Way Station in downtown Boston next to Hangman's Alley. There, he and his gang found a bunch of toxic, irradiated barrels, but instead of recognizing the danger and leaving, he thought radiation exposure would give him superpowers, eternal life, allowing him to be Tunnel Snake gang leader forever. But instead, the radiation turned him and his new Tunnel Snakes into ghouls. There, he lost his mind, attacking any human to venture into Fen Station, and possibly meeting his end at the hands of the sole survivor. Three Dog continued to fight the good fight in the ruins of GNR. He remained a staunch supporter of the Brotherhood of Steel all the way up until their ultimate victory. Afterwards, he presumably gained a wider audience, or at least had enough influence to mentor and tutor another aspiring radio jockey who went on to become a DJ of Diamond City Radio in the Commonwealth, Travis Lonely Miles, to whom he imparted his personal world philosophy that Wastelanders of the world should persist in fighting the good fight.
You know, an old friend once told me, you gotta always fight the good fight. And it looks like someone we know did just that.
Moira Brown, with the help of the Lone Wanderer, finally completed her Wasteland Survival Guide. And presumably, it was chocked full of good and useful information.
Ain't you heard of the Wasteland Survival Guide? Bought one off a trader, and it's the reason my family's back up to 2 meals a day.
So much so that new editions of her survival guide began to appear in other locations, including the Commonwealth, where Wastelanders can be found reading it even 10 years later. Sierra Petrovita lived a happy existence in her little shack in Girdershade, collecting Nuka-Cola memorabilia. We don't know if her little museum ever became a wasteland destination, but we do know that she never stopped collecting. 10 years after the Lone Wanderer meets her in the Capital Wasteland, she makes a trek all by herself to the Commonwealth to finally visit her Shangri-La, Nuka World.
You haven't seen anything that's, out of the ordinary around here, have you? Maybe something hidden, shaped like a bottle cap.
I thought we told you to keep your ass at the market. If you're looking for something, you can find it there, like everyone else.
I'm not here for the market. I didn't travel hundreds of miles to go shopping.
I don't suppose you came here for a bullet in the brain either. So if you want to live, I suggest you stay where you belong.
Oh, you guys are real friendly, aren't you? The name's Sierra Petrovita. I traveled all the way from the Capital Wasteland to visit this place. Maybe you've heard about my Nuka-Cola museum?
You run a Nuka-Cola museum?
Absolutely. I spent years collecting all the Nuka-Cola merchandise I could find. It's all on display at my home in a settlement called Girdershade. I give tours to anyone who stops by. And I can promise you this. You won't find another collection like mine in the Capital Wasteland, the Commonwealth, or any place else.
I don't like Nuka-Cola. Too sweet.
What?
She presumably never caught on to Ronald Lauren's advances because he is not with her when she arrives in Nuka World. Perhaps he finally gave up. There, she soaks in the sights and sounds of Nuka World, oblivious to the fact that it's now swarming with murderous raiders, and armed with her special pair of Cappy sunglasses, tries to complete the pre-war Cappy in a Haystack challenge, hoping upon hope that at last she'll be allowed into the inner sanctum of John Caleb Bradburton himself. Dr. Zimmer never found missing synth unit A321, and we know this because he never made it back to the Institute. We don't know his ultimate fate, Was he killed, either by A321 or by the Lone Wanderer? Did he get lost on the way back to the Commonwealth? Or did he get sidetracked by some other project? We don't know. And neither does the Institute. 10 years later, he's still missing. Leadership of the Synth Retention Bureau has fallen to his subordinate, Justin Io.
If you're the acting head of the SRB, who are you filling in for?
Dr. Zimmer holds that position. He's supervising the retrieval of some of the more high-profile units. In his absence, I keep things running smoothly.
Justin Io still considers Dr. Zimmer to be in charge of the Synth Retention Bureau, when we learn from the terminal entries in the Institute that no one at the Institute really knows where he is. He hasn't checked in for quite some time. If we read Father's terminal, he describes Zimmer as being offline. This is the same language he uses to describe Conrad Kellogg, who, by the time we gain access to this terminal, is dead. This likely means that A321 escaped capture and either went back to his former life as if nothing had happened, or walked off into the wasteland to forge a new life, with full and complete knowledge of who he really is. Victoria Watts never made it back to the railroad. At least, we find no record of her in the railroad's archives after she leaves the Commonwealth to travel to the capital wasteland to protect A321. Perhaps this is more evidence that A321 remained at Rivet City after Dr. Zimmer's failure. This would give Victoria Watts a reason to stay in the capital wasteland to look after A321. But the railroad itself went through many important changes. Its leader at the time, Pinky Thompson, was ultimately deposed after his leadership led to the Institute discovering and destroying one of their safe houses named Trinity. After an election, a young railroad agent named Desdemona took command. Under her leadership, the railroad enjoyed a string of successes. They saved many synths, getting them far away from the Commonwealth, and recruited many important new members, including Tinker Tom and Glory, a synth herself who decided to keep her memories and fight for the cause. In 2281, the railroad found a pre-war DIA bunker, which they moved into to use as a new headquarters. They called this bunker the Switchboard.
We're entering a secret Defense Intelligence Agency research lab, a place that never officially existed. It's called the Switchboard.
And there they found a tool which became an important asset, the Predictive Analytic Machine, PAM, a pre-war military experiment designed to simulate a number of outcomes to predict the future. But the railroad's great success under Desdemona came to an end when the Institute finally discovered the Switchboard.
You were there, at the Switchboard? One day, the Institute's gonna kill us all, I tell you.
There, they lost many of their agents. Only a handful survived. 10 years after Victoria Watts arrived at the capital wasteland, the railroad is now just the shell of an organization, hiding in the catacombs beneath the Old North Church, still fighting against slavery, one synth at a time. James died defending Project Purity, but his ultimate dream was fulfilled. The Brotherhood of Steel successfully activated it, and the Lone Wanderer did not infect it with modified FEV. This made the capital wasteland, as Deacon tells the sole survivor 10 years later, one of the only places where one can get clean, drinkable water.
Capital wasteland. Exports, purified water, some decent tech. Oh, and an insane suicidal cult that worships radiation. Thanks, guys.
And Deacon's right. Confessor Cromwell's message spread wide and far after the activation of Project Purity. His preaching inspired many people in the capital wasteland, including Mother Curie, whom we met during the events of Broken Steel, but also others who went on to spread the message of Adam far and wide. Most of these people had a rather tenuous grasp of Confessor Cromwell's message. Confessor Cromwell was completely peaceful, content to live alongside non-believers. But some of the people who heard his message and converted got the idea that they must inflict division on others. Some of them traveled in loosely organized groups as far north as the Commonwealth. There, they attacked anyone and everyone with their deadly gamma weapons, inflicting them with radiation, forcibly causing division. But Confessor Cromwell from Megaton also consciously sent out missionaries. There were 2 such missionaries that he sent north, Confessors Tectus and Martin. The 2 confessors traveled with a group of believers and peacefully converted many more along the way, until at last they arrived at Mount Desert Island in Maine.
How is it you came to this place?
We were guided here many years ago, after our exile from Far Harbor. The first of us, my predecessor, Martin, and I, had come north at the behest of Adam's great prophet, Confessor Cromwell, from a small refuge in the capital wastes. When we arrived on the island, we found a few souls receptive to Adam's message.
There, they tried to settle in the town of Far Harbor, but they were eventually exiled from Far Harbor because the locals didn't like their message. An escaped synth from the Institute was living in the ruins of the Mount Desert Island Naval Facility, and as an outcast himself, he took pity on these children of Adam and invited them into his home. There, the children of Adam were safe as an organization, and Confessor Martin was promoted to High Confessor to serve as leader of the children. He struck up a friendship with the synth, but as their relationship with the people living in the town of Far Harbor worsened, his relationship with the synth was strained as well. High Confessor Martin began to doubt his faith, eventually leading him to abandon his home. When Martin left, Tectus took control. He renamed the naval facility the Nucleus and made the abandoned nuclear submarine inside, which still had its nuclear payload, his headquarters and base of operations. Other converts to the Children of Adam decided to remain peaceful. These groups were unrelated to Tectus and Martin's group, and in fact, didn't even know of their existence.
I'm part of a church in a place called the Nucleus, near the town of Far Harbor. You know it?
Far Harbor? Few know of the land shrouded beneath Adam's veil, let alone claim to have worshipped within its sacred fog. An interesting assertion, if it's true.
Instead of attacking everyone on sight, these children simply sought out places warm with Adam's glow.
How did you find this place?
We'd seen the glow, beckoning us in the distance. Where others ply the glowing sea with fear, we strode into this land, knowing that Adam would guide us through unharmed. In return for our faith, we were granted this haven, abandoned, pristine, a blessing from Adam. We built here to show our thanks for his grace.
Where they worshipped in peace, free from interruption from the rest of humanity. Mayor MacCready from Little Lamplight eventually became a Mungo. He grew too old to live in Lamplight anymore and was cast out into the wasteland. But instead of going to Big Town, MacCready roamed the wastes. He found life as a Mungo to be difficult, and in order to make ends meet, he ended up becoming a mercenary. He worked for whomever would pay him, taking out hits on the guilty and the innocent alike. A few years later, he stumbled upon a woman named Lucy, and the two of them fell in love. This could be the Lucy that we met in Little Lamplight as a child, who even at that time had a particular fondness for MacCready. Perhaps when she became a Mungo herself and was cast out of Little Lamplight, her path just happened to cross MacCready's. They reconnected and fell in love. But MacCready was ashamed of his occupation. He didn't want Lucy to know the truth, and so he told her that he was a soldier.
I told her I was a soldier, and she made it for me. Never could bring myself to tell her the truth. That I was just a hired killer. And the soldier story was the best thing I could come up with. I didn't want to lose her because of what I was.
When he was between jobs, they tried to become farmers. They set up a small homestead and tried to grow crops. It was during this time that the couple had a young boy, whom they named Duncan.
When I left the capital wasteland, I didn't just leave Little Lamplight behind. I left my family behind. Had a beautiful wife named Lucy, and a son we named Duncan.
But their happily ever after was tragically cut short.
We made the mistake of holing up in a metro station one night. We didn't know that the place was infested with ferals. They were on her before I could even fire a shot. Ripped her apart right in front of me. There was nothing I could do. Took everything I had to escape with Duncan in my arms. Maybe it would have been better if we died there with her.
To make matters worse, sometime after that, his son Duncan became sick.
My son, he's sick. I don't know what's wrong with him. One day he's playing out in the fields behind our farm. The next he took a fever and these blue boils popped up all over his body. Last I saw, he was almost too weak to walk. I didn't dare ask him to come with me. Honestly, I don't know how much longer he's going to last.
The doctors told him that it was life-threatening, that Duncan could die, and that they didn't know of a cure, though they did hear of a panacea that was produced by the medtech company in the Commonwealth. So, MacCready gave Duncan to a trusted family friend and headed off to the Commonwealth. He arrived, but he needed work. His only experience was working as a mercenary, and so he joined the Gunners to make ends meet while he tried to find this medtech facility. But after a time, he became disenchanted with the Gunners. He left and made his way to the town of Goodneighbor, where he drinks away his sorrows in the VIP section, hearing only the echo of Magnolia while trying to remember the sound of Lucy's voice. President Eden was destroyed. We don't exactly know how. He could have been destroyed by the Lone Wanderer, or he could have been destroyed by Liberty Prime after the Brotherhood took Project Purity back, if the Lone Wanderer chose to leave him alive. Either way, his influence over the Enclave came to an end in 2277. After the death of President Eden, the Enclave made their last stand at the Adams Air Force Base, but they were ultimately defeated by the Lone Wanderer and the Brotherhood of Steel, who destroyed their base of operations, the mobile base crawler, by bombarding it with missiles launched by the Bradley Hercules orbiting nuclear platform. This was a decisive victory for the Brotherhood of Steel and broke the back of the Enclave, sending their forces into disarray. Some of the Enclave forces were executed for mutiny, maybe for trying to flee, or maybe because their leaders went mad. Some executed their leaders and tried to join the Brotherhood of Steel.
Don't shoot! We surrender! We fragged our lieutenant! We just want some water!
Some successfully deserted, like Richter, who joined up with the Children of Adam as Tectus and Martin led them from the Capital Wasteland to Maine. But for all intents and purposes, they became a non-factor in the Capital Wasteland. But that's not the end of their story. At least, if a Creation Club creation can be believed. Somehow, small pockets of the Enclave survived, possibly by going underground, hiding from the Brotherhood of Steel. There, they slowly tried to rebuild, continuing to amass and produce new technology, continuing to do research out into the Capital Wasteland and beyond. One of these research and reconnaissance teams was a unit called the Devil's Hand, an elite group of fighters equipped with the best that the Enclave had to offer, including the extremely rare pre-war X-02 power armor. During one of their missions, one of the members of the unit deserted, abandoning the Enclave, but taking with him some of their technology. He thought that the Enclave was fighting a losing battle. Their methods were heartless and flawed, and he was overcome by guilt over the people that he killed while serving the Enclave. He eventually made his way to the Commonwealth, where he set up a new home for himself in the underground Boston police rationing site. There, he became a typical wastelander, a scavenger, until one day he discovered some pre-war Hubris Comics holotapes detailing the events of one of the lesser-known superheroes in the Hubris Comics universe called the Black Devil. He was inspired by these holotapes, and as a way to make amends for the evils he did while working for the Enclave, dressed up in his X-02 power armor and became the Black Devil. he used a radio in the Boston police rationing site to tune in to distress signals sent out by wastelanders and settlers in need of assistance. And when he heard somebody in danger, he would jump into his Black Devil power armor and leap to the rescue, defending the defenseless. He became a legend in the wasteland, a mythological figure dismissed by many, but there were true believers who would continue to flock to the radio to call for help in time of need. But there came a day when the Black Devil stopped answering those calls, and that's because this nameless former Enclave soldier eventually decided that he had become too old to live the life of a superhero. And so he abandoned his Exo-2 power armor and his home in the Boston police rationing site to head off into the wasteland to die. But the Enclave didn't know this. Members of his old unit were dispatched by the remaining Enclave forces in the capital wasteland to the Commonwealth to retrieve this suit of power armor. The retrieval teams were led by Enclave soldiers Sergeant Hodges and Officer Bradley. They reached the Commonwealth, and while there, they captured and interrogated settlers, trying to find the location of their missing member, this Black Devil. They eventually found his hideout, but after he had left. We don't know if they ultimately found and retrieved the Exo-2 power armor. It all depends on whether or not they bumped in to the sole survivor. We don't know what happened to the Mechanist or the Antagonizer, but we do know that little Derek Passian kept on drawing. It was he who first inspired Scott Walensky to create and don the Mechanist costume to defend the town of Canterbury Commons. And we know that Derek Passian kept on drawing because his drawings ended up in the Commonwealth 10 years later. We know that Canterbury Commons was a hub of caravan traffic in the capital wasteland. Perhaps the people of Canterbury Commons and young Derek Passian himself decided to migrate north, or perhaps Derek gave his drawings to a caravaner who traveled north to Boston. However it happened, these drawings appeared in Boston and fell into the hands of a young woman named Isabel Cruz. Isabel was deeply troubled by the raiders and violence in the Commonwealth, as she felt powerless to do anything about it. She wasn't a good fighter, she wasn't particularly a very good survivor. Her only talent was to tinker. When she got her hands on Derek's drawings, an idea sparked in her imagination. An idea that she ran with, for good or for ill. Vault 108 lost some of its Gary clones. When the Lone Wanderer arrived at Vault 108, he found the door wide open, and deep inside he found a handful of Gary clones. We don't know how long this door had been open, nor exactly how many there were. Even if the Lone Wanderer killed every Gary clone left in Vault 108, it's possible that some Gary clones escaped 108 before the Lone Wanderer ever got here. And we know that at least one did, and that this Gary clone traveled north, for in numerous locations in the Commonwealth, we find small wooden blocks arranged by a childlike mind to spell one word, the same word, over and over again. Gary. They're out there, and at this point, they could be anywhere. There is much we don't know about the Lone Wanderer, but we do know that he or she was a good karma person. And that's because many of the good karma outcomes are the canonical endings to Fallout 3. The Lone Wanderer did not infect Project Purity with modified FEV. The Lone Wanderer defeated the Enclave, handing the victory to the Brotherhood of Steel. The Lone Wanderer did not blow up the bomb in the middle of Megaton, as evidenced by the existence of the Children of Adam in the Commonwealth. We can't be sure he or she exclusively made good karma decisions. Perhaps the Lone Wanderer made a neutral one here or there. Or perhaps the Lone Wanderer was occasionally downright evil. But for the most part, the Lone Wanderer was good. So I think it's safe to say that many of the good outcomes of Fallout 3 likely happened. For example, the Lone Wanderer likely released Fox from Vault 87. After the Lone Wanderer helped the Brotherhood of Steel defeat the Enclave, the Lone Wanderer took to adventuring. He or she traveled to Point Lookout, before returning to the Capital Wasteland and was then abducted by aliens. That's the last the world ever hears of the Lone Wanderer. It's possible the Lone Wanderer defeated the Zetans that abducted him or her and returned to the Capital Wasteland. But after Adam's Air Force Base, the Brotherhood never talked about the Lone Wanderer. We don't find record of him or her in any of their historical records. And no one we meet from the Capital Wasteland seems to know where the Lone Wanderer went. Now, there are many theories. Some say the Lone Wanderer became a face-changing special agent. Some say the Lone Wanderer never made it off that alien spaceship. Some say the Lone Wanderer traveled west, seeking out new adventures, but no one really knows for sure. The Lone Wanderer became a figure of legend, memorialized by only one person, Moira Brown. On September 10th, 2297, Moira Brown sits down at her terminal to write the following. Personal note. Just shipped out another crate of survival guides, and the caravans just can't seem to get enough of them. Sheriff Sims says they've really put Megaton on the map. Pretty ironic, since I've had to redraw that map about 1 million times since the first edition came out 20 years ago. At least all the attention means there's no shortage of assistants, but I'm never getting another assistant like the Lone Wanderer who stumbled into my shop so long ago. Just about everyone in the Capital Wasteland has a story about the Lone Wanderer, even though precious few ever really knew him. But that doesn't stop them from telling crazy tall tales about how he saved their lives, or blew up a mountain, or ate a car or something. Heck, if you get Sims drunk, he'll tell you that his dad died because of the Wanderer, even though he saved the town. People can't even agree on whether the Wanderer was a man or a woman, much less a saint or a monster. But they all agree on one thing. The Lone Wanderer changed the Capital Wasteland. Of course, that's why I'm working on the new book, compiling the best and most useful tales of the Lone Wanderer for the next generation. It's not easy sorting out all of the conflicting stories, but that'll be half the fun for the readers. More importantly, between all of those crazy stories of bravery, barbarity, and everything in between, we can all find a reason to keep on fighting our war for survival. I guess some things never change, huh? Owen Lyon's Brotherhood of Steel reigned victorious and supreme in the Capital Wasteland. After defeating the Enclave and scattering them to the winds, Elder Lyons continued, with the help of Rivet City, to ship clean, pure drinking water to the settlements of the Capital Wasteland. That is, for a while. Many of the hardline members of the Brotherhood of Steel wondered, has the Brotherhood become a charity? Why were they wasting Brotherhood time, people, and resources on a charity mission? They mumbled about it quietly amongst themselves, and sometimes even publicly.
You know, I didn't sign up with the Brotherhood to be an errand boy.
Think I might just not show up tomorrow. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? I get fired?
Hey, Bigsley, what's your take on Elder Lyons?
It's probably best if I don't answer that question.
It wasn't why we were sent here. Good or bad has nothing to do with it. Lyons knew that, but ignored it. He decided it was more important to save the people here than to obey orders from his superiors. For years he'd try and persuade them to send reinforcements and supplies, all the while stringing them along, saying he was sticking to the mission. Finally, things came to a head. Lyons directly refused orders, and so the West Coast cut us off. No communications, no reinforcements. We live and die by our dedication to the Brotherhood. To go against orders, it's not something that's done. I appreciate that Lyons believes he is doing what is right, but he should never have disobeyed orders.
But the Brotherhood didn't grumble for long. Shortly after the Brotherhood's victory, Elder Lyons passed away. We learned this on the terminal of Proctor Quinlan aboard the Prydwen. We don't know how he died. It may have been in battle. It may have been of old age. But upon his death, his daughter Sarah Lyons became elder in his place. She was beloved by everyone in the Brotherhood, even if she did try to carry on her father's legacy, especially his dedication to ridding the Capital Wasteland of supermutants. We learned after destroying the mobile base crawler that one of the Brotherhood's primary tasks was to now renew their efforts on eradicating super mutants from the capital wastelands.
Father's sending us into DC to scour the ruins and try and cleanse it of super mutants. He's calling it our next great obstacle.
Sarah Lyons was not an elder to sit in fancy robes within the Pentagon and draft orders for other soldiers to fulfill. She was a soldier. And so as elder, she personally went out with Lion's Pride to battle the super mutants, to get rid of them once and for all. But tragically, it was during one of these battles where she was struck down. She died a hero, a soldier, an elder, but her legacy and the legacy of her father were mired in controversy. With the Lyons family dead, there was no one left to lead the Brotherhood. We learned that the East Coast chapter of the Brotherhood of Steel went through one elder after another, but none of them had the charisma or leadership abilities of Owen and Sarah Lyons. That is, until young Arthur Maxon came of age. Maxon was the sole remaining heir of Roger Maxon, the founder of the Brotherhood of Steel. At the age of 13, he distinguished himself by single-handedly slaying a Deathclaw. Then, at the age of 15, he led the Brotherhood into battle against an organized army of super mutants led by a powerful mutant named Shepard. The Brotherhood was victorious, and Arthur Maxon personally killed Shepard in melee combat. This earned him the admiration of everyone in the Brotherhood of Steel, and it impressed the Brotherhood outcasts. Arthur Maxon then took it upon himself to heal the rift between the Brotherhood and the outcast, and he invited the outcasts back into the fold. With reassurances that the Brotherhood as a faction has changed, the outcasts agreed, thus putting an end to the Eastern Chapter Brotherhood of Steel's civil war. News of this reunification reached the West Coast elders, who unanimously agreed to appoint Arthur Maxon, as young as he was, as uncontested leader of the East Coast chapter of the Brotherhood of Steel. In this way, news of what happened on the East Coast reached far and wide on the West Coast, until it was common knowledge even within the Mojave chapter of the Brotherhood of Steel, as we learned from Veronica.
We've had people go rogue, though, and start helping people. One chapter had a small civil war over it.
Arthur Maxon would change things. Gone were the days of wasting Brotherhood of Steel resources on hapless, thankless wastelanders. Gone were the days of the Brotherhood of Steel being a mere charity. The Brotherhood of Steel was the most powerful force in the wasteland, and it was about time they acted like it. Arthur Maxon reinvigorated the disciplined structure of the Brotherhood of Steel, and at the same time, utterly destroyed the reputation of Elder Lyons. So much so that even 10 years after his death, members of the Brotherhood still refer to Elder Lyons as the weak and foolish elder, the elder who led them astray.
A decade ago, the Brotherhood had almost gone completely astray. The elder before Maxon sent us down a path that was leading nowhere. He was more concerned about charity than the preservation of technology. But when Maxon took over, he single-handedly reprioritized the Brotherhood from the ground up and put us back on the path to glory. This ship and its crew are a testament to his leadership.
Elder Maxon is the supreme commander of the Brotherhood. Without his tenacity and his vision, we'd still be a small group of complacent stragglers, occupying the Citadel and the capital wasteland. In a mere decade, he's grown the Brotherhood of Steel into a major military force. He's an inspiration to us all.
He was forgotten as the elder who safely navigated them across the continental United States. He was forgotten as the scourge who purified Pittsburgh, as the elder who discovered the ruins of the Pentagon and delivered to the Brotherhood Liberty Prime. He was forgotten as the elder who waged an unending war against super mutants in the capital wasteland, and as the elder who defeated the Enclave, giving to the Brotherhood Adams Air Force Base and all of the Enclave's technology in the mobile base crawler. The memories of the leadership of Owen and Sarah Lyons became a reminder to the Brotherhood of Steel of what not to do, of what the Brotherhood should never again become. Elder Arthur Maxon started by bolstering the armament of the Brotherhood of Steel. With full, unopposed reign of the capital wasteland, they discovered a pre-war cache of T-60 power armor, which they used to arm their entire force. They moved into the Adams Air Force Base, and their scribes immediately began dismantling the remains of the mobile base crawler. With these scavenged parts, they began construction on the Prydwen.
Where was the Prydwen constructed? She was constructed at Adams Air Force Base, just outside of Washington, D.C. There was a vast amount of scrap metal and salvageable components there after we defeated the Enclave. We spent the first 2 years alone gathering the parts. The rest was spent assembling. It was worth the effort. It took the Brotherhood's sharpest minds over 2 years to design and more than twice that to build.
Arthur's vision was to have a mobile fortress they could use to exercise control of the entire eastern seaboard. They continued to occupy and defend the capital wasteland, keeping Project Purity working, so that the people of the wasteland could have their pure water, and they continued to eradicate any and all supermutants. But Arthur Maxon had dreams of expansion, and with this dream in mind, the Brotherhood began sending out scouts to other parts of the country. They sent 3 such scouting parties north towards the Commonwealth. Their first scouting party came back a few years later. With them, they brought a treasure trove of technology, documents, and weapons that they scavenged from the ruins of the Commonwealth. After such amazing success, the Brotherhood dispatched Recon Squad Artemis, led by Paladin Brandis. But despite being heavily armed, they lost contact with Recon Squad Artemis just after the squad had visited the ruins of Malden. To find out what happened to them and to try to recover them, the Brotherhood finally dispatched Recon Squad Gladius, led by Paladin Dance. Recon Squad Gladius met tough resistance, but they succeeded in taking and securing the Cambridge police station. They became entrenched, fighting a losing battle after horde of feral ghouls swarmed the station. During this time, they lost 4 Brotherhood knights, but they also picked up a strange signal. It was some sort of unknown energy emission, filled with data that Dance's team was not equipped to parse. The signal was coming from the ruins of CIT, the Commonwealth Institute of Technology, and so Paladin Dance immediately sent this information back to the Brotherhood in the capital wasteland. After analyzing the signals that came from CIT, the Brotherhood discovered the existence of the Institute and the existence of the synth.
They call their creation the synth, a robotic abomination of technology that is free-thinking and masquerades as a human being. This notion that a machine could be granted free will is not only offensive, but horribly dangerous. And like the atom, if it isn't harnessed properly, it has the potential of rendering us extinct as a species.
The synth represented everything the Brotherhood stood against. An obscene aberration of science, technology run amok, created by the very same human hubris that caused the apocalypse of 2077. And so Arthur Maxon made the decision. It took 2 years to design and 6 years to build. In order to power the massive Prydwen, they scavenged a nuclear reactor from an aircraft carrier. We learned this from terminals aboard the Prydwen. Now, this is a controversial theory, but the only aircraft carrier we know of from Fallout 3 is Rivet City. And since in the terminal it is referred to as that aircraft carrier, we get the impression that it was a familiar sight. It's possible, therefore, that the canonical ending for Rivet City is that their power, their source of electricity, was taken by the Brotherhood of Steel. It's possible that it was given over voluntarily, but somehow I don't think that's likely. But finally, the Prydwen was ready. He boarded the Prydwen with a huge research and fighting force and embarked from Adams Air Force Base north towards the Commonwealth. It was a long and perilous flight, and along the way the Brotherhood saw reminder after reminder that their cause was just, noble, and right.
You know, before getting shipped to the Commonwealth, I thought Elder Lion still had some good points. The Brotherhood in the capital wasteland, they were about helping. But this assignment, it's opened my eyes. On the flight here, we passed city after city, buildings taller than I've ever seen. Some that nearly clipped the Prydwen. And who uses them now? Mutants. Freaks. Seeing all that destruction, tens of millions dead, brought on by technology run amok, it made it so clear. Elder Maxon is right. The wasteland needs to be cleansed, and we're the ones to do it.
They traveled day and night, rain or shine, until one night, the Prydwen burst through the clouds, arriving in the Commonwealth and making themselves known.
People of the Commonwealth, do not interfere. Our intentions are peaceful. We are the Brotherhood of Steel.
And so Arthur Maxon had transformed Lion's Brotherhood of Steel into one of the most powerful, well-armed, and disciplined fighting forces the post-apocalypse had ever seen. We learned that Scribe Rothschild never did get Liberty Prime working, perhaps because he and the Brotherhood were too distracted by building the Prydwen. But the Brotherhood never gave up hope that one day, Liberty Prime would walk again, for they gathered together all of his pieces and stowed them away aboard the Prydwen. And upon arriving in the Commonwealth, they set them up in the workshop at the Boston airport, where Proctor Ingram took over Rothschild's task of getting the robot up and running again. The Brotherhood was once again united. They were united under one cause, one flag, one man, Maxon, true heir to the Brotherhood, the restorer of true Brotherhood ideals. By this time, Maxon had taken on an almost cult-like following, something that bothered him. He wasn't in this for his own ego, his own pride, his own glory. Arthur Maxon is just as dedicated to the cause of the Brotherhood as every soldier who fights and dies under his command. And so instead of rallying the Brotherhood under his own name, under his own banner, he rallies the Brotherhood with one cry: to victory!
Ad Victoriam!
Ad Victoriam! Ad Victoriam! Ad Victoriam!
And here the epilogue ends, and the story of Fallout 4 begins. What are your thoughts about the canonical ending to Fallout 3? Is there another story from Fallout 3 that you wish had been concluded with Fallout 4? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I publish many videos each and every week on my channel, so if you don't want to miss my next episode, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. If you have and you still feel like you're missing out on YouTube notifications, consider following me on Twitter at Oxhorn. I update Twitter manually with every new piece of content that I publish. I've got a brand new shirt in the shop. Lion's Pride. The Brotherhood tries its best, but sometimes they need a little something special. That's where Lion's Pride comes in. This design comes on shirts in a variety of men's, women's, and children's sizes, and in a wide array of colors. You can find the design on other products as well, like smartphone cases, pillows, posters, mugs, stickers, prints, etc. So if interested, you can find a link to my shop in the description below, or you can click here. If you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming a patron on Patreon or a member here on YouTube. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon with more brand new videos.